They say there are three types of prisons in the galaxy. The first kind locks your body. The second kind locks your mind. But the third kind? The third kind locks every version of you that could ever exist. Kade Voss had been in all three. Right now, he was in the worst one. The probability prison didn't have bars. It didn't need them. Kade sat on a chair that might become a table. He stared at a wall that could shift into a door, or a window, or nothing at all. Time here felt like trying to remember a dream while you're still dreaming it. He'd been here for 3 months, or 3 years, or 3 minutes. The prison made sure you could never be certain. "You're thinking too loud again." Kade turned his head, slowly because sudden movements sometimes meant you'd already moved 5 seconds ago, and saw his cellmate materialize from a corner that hadn't existed a moment before. Esh looked like smoke given bones. The alien's form flickered between solid and translucent, its 3 eyes blinking in sequence like a broken signal light. Telepaths always looked strange to humans, but Esh took it to another level. The creature claimed it came from a planet where thoughts had weight and memories could be traded like currency. "Can't help it," Kade muttered. "This place makes my brain itch." "Your brain itches because you keep trying to find patterns." Esh's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "There are no patterns here, only possibilities." Kade stood up. The floor beneath him was metal, then wood, then something that felt like frozen water but wasn't cold. He learned to ignore it. "That's exactly why we're getting out." Esh's middle eye focused on him with sudden intensity. "We've discussed this 17 times across 43 probable conversations. Each time you fail." "Those were other versions of me in other realities." Kade walked to what he hoped was still a wall. "I'm different." "How?" "Because I've been counting." That got Esh's attention. All 3 eyes locked onto Kade. "Counting what?" Kade pressed his palm against the wall. It felt solid, for now. "The shifts, the changes, the moments when reality hiccups. I can feel them now, Esh, like a rhythm. And every rhythm has a pattern, even chaos." Esh moved closer, its form stabilizing slightly. "That's impossible. The probability core generates 16 million reality fluctuations per second. No organic mind can track that." "I'm not tracking all of them." Kade turned to face the alien. "Just ours. Our cell exists in approximately 800 overlapping realities at any given moment. I've been feeling which ones are real and which ones are echoes." A pause. In the probability prison, pauses were dangerous because they might last forever. "Show me," Esh finally said. Kade closed his eyes. The trick wasn't to see the realities, it was to feel the spaces between them, like sensing the gaps between heartbeats. "Right now, we're mostly in reality stream 7, but there's bleed-through from stream 12 and stream 31. In exactly 4 seconds, stream 7 will collapse and will shift primarily to stream 19. Esh watched, waited. 4 seconds passed. The air tasted different. The wall turned blue. Kade opened his eyes. "We're in 19 now," he said. Esh's form solidified completely for the first time in months. "How long have you been able to do this?" 6 weeks, maybe. I started noticing patterns during the 3rd or 4th loop of Tuesday." "This changes things." Esh moved to the center of their cell, which was now a circle instead of a square. "If you can predict the shifts, we might actually have a chance. But we'll need more than prediction. We'll need synchronization. That's where you come in."
Esh understood immediately. "My telepathy can link our minds across probability streams. If we time it correctly, we could experience multiple realities simultaneously." "Exactly!" Kade felt a surge of something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. "We don't escape from one reality, we escape from all of them at once." That's never been done. That's why it might work. They spent the next indeterminate amount of time planning. Time was slippery here, but Kade had learned to anchor himself to Esh's presence. The alien's thoughts had a consistency that reality lacked. The plan was insane, but sanity was a luxury they couldn't afford. First, they needed to reach the probability core, the massive quantum computer at the prison's center that generated and maintained all the reality streams. Getting there meant navigating through 200 cells, each one existing in different probability states. Second, once they reached the core, Esh would need to establish a telepathic link with it. The core wasn't alive, but it processed information in ways that resembled thought. If Esh could convince it to pause its reality generation for even a fraction of a second, every probability stream would freeze. Third, in that frozen moment, Kade would need to choose, not one reality to escape into, but the singular reality where they were already free. It was less of an escape plan and more of a philosophical argument with the universe. "The guards will notice," Esh warned. "The Wardens exist outside probability. They'll see what we're attempting." Kade had encountered the Wardens once during his first week. They were things that looked human-shaped, but moved wrong, like puppets whose strings passed through dimensions you couldn't see. They spoke in voices that came from your own memories. "Let them notice," Kade said. "By the time they react, we'll already be gone. Or we'll be caught in every reality simultaneously." "Optimism, Esh. Try it sometime." The alien made a sound like distant thunder. It might have been laughter. They began during a shift to Reality 44. Kade had chosen this stream because it had the longest stability duration, almost 12 seconds, before it collapsed into another probability state. 12 seconds to cross half the prison. "Ready?" Kade asked. Esh's form blurred at the edges. "I've been ready across 16 possible versions of this conversation." "Great, let's make this the real one." Kade placed his hand on the wall, felt the reality beneath his fingertips, waited for the shift. There, the wall became a door. He pulled it open and ran. The corridor beyond existed in 3 states at once. To his left, it stretched into infinite darkness. To his right, it folded back on itself like paper. Straight ahead, it looked normal, which meant it was probably the most dangerous option. Kade ran straight ahead. Esh flowed beside him, its form adapting to each reality shift. 4 seconds until Stream 44 collapses. They passed the first cell. Inside, Kade saw versions of himself. One was sleeping, one was screaming, one was just staring at the wall, fingers bleeding from scratching the same spot over and over. He looked away. 3 seconds. Another cell. This one held a creature made of crystallized time. It turned to look at them, and Kade felt his timeline shudder. 2 seconds. The corridor split. Kade veered left based on pure instinct. 1 second. Reality hiccuped. They were in Stream 19 now. The corridor looked the same, but felt different, like wearing someone else's skin. "How many more shifts until the core?" Kade gasped. Running in overlapping realities was exhausting in ways that had no name. "Impossible to calculate. The core exists in all streams simultaneously. We need to find the convergence point, the place where all probabilities meet." "You couldn't have mentioned this before?" "You never asked." A sound echoed through the corridor. It came from behind them, ahead of them, and inside them all at once. The Wardens had noticed. "Move faster," Esh urged. Kade didn't need to be told twice. He pushed his body through realities that tried to unmake him with every step. His lungs burned with air that might not be oxygen. His legs moved through space that might not be distance. They passed more cells, more prisoners, a woman who existed only as a shadow, a thing with too many mouths, a human man who kept splitting into copies of himself, each one more terrified than the last. And then Kade saw them. 3 wardens stood in the corridor ahead. They wore faces that Kade recognized: his mother, his first flight instructor, a friend who died in a cargo accident. The prison had stolen his memories and given them form. "Kade Voss," said the warden, wearing his mother's face, "you exist in violation of 863 probability states. Surrender, and we will collapse you into one." Kade stopped running, not because he wanted to, but because the space around the wardens had become thick, like trying to move through solidified time. "Esh," he whispered, "I need you to do something crazy." "Define crazy." "Link my mind to theirs." The wardens exist outside probability. Their minds aren't minds as we understand them. Touching them telepathically could destroy both of us. But they're standing in front of the convergence point. I can feel it. The core is right behind them. Esh was silent for a moment that stretched across multiple realities. "If we do this," the alien finally said, "there's no coming back. We either escape or we become part of the prison, permanently." Kade looked at the wardens, at the faces they wore, at the lie of familiarity. "I've been part of this prison long enough." "Then hold on to whatever makes you real." Esh's consciousness slammed into his like a tidal wave of frozen lightning. Suddenly, Kade was everywhere and nowhere. He felt the wardens' non-thoughts, the mathematical certainty of their existence. They weren't cruel, they weren't kind, they simply were, probability police maintaining the cosmic order. But beneath their certainty, Kade felt something else, a gap, a flaw in their perfect existence. They couldn't imagine. They could calculate every possible outcome, but they couldn't conceive of the impossible. Kade did the impossible. He stopped existing. For one quantum moment, he chose not to be real, not in this reality or any other. He became potential, pure possibility without form. The wardens reached for him with their probability-correcting hands. They found nothing. In that absence, Kade felt Ash pull them both forward, through the space where the warden stood, through the corridor that was all corridors, straight into the heart of the convergence point. They materialized inside a sphere of pure light, the probability core. It was beautiful and terrible. 16 million realities playing out simultaneously, each one a thread in an impossible tapestry. Kade could see every prisoner, every crime, every moment of suffering and hope woven together. He could also see the truth. The prison wasn't punishment, it was an experiment. Someone, something, was testing the limits of consciousness across probability space. How much could a mind endure when split across infinite versions of itself? What remained constant when everything else changed? The revelation should have broken him. Instead, it made him angry. "Ash," he said, his voice echoing across 16 million realities. "Do it now." The alien's consciousness expanded, touching the core's quantum processors. It wasn't hacking, it was asking, pleading, explaining. "We are proof that consciousness transcends probability. We exist because we choose to. Let us go." The core considered this for an eternity compressed into a nanosecond. Then it agreed. Reality froze. Every probability stream stopped generating. Every overlapping universe held its breath. In that frozen moment, Kade could see all the possible versions of himself and Esh, escaping,
captured, dead, alive, never having existed at all. He reached out and chose. Not the reality where they escaped, not the reality where they failed, the reality where they had never been caught in the first place. It was a paradox. It was impossible. It violated causality so thoroughly that the universe itself recoiled. But in that frozen instant, causality didn't matter. Probability collapsed. Reality snapped back into motion. Kade opened his eyes.
He was standing on a starship landing pad. The twin suns of Archeon 5 beat down on his shoulders. His ship, the Nomad's Chance, sat in front of him, exactly where he'd left it 3 months ago, or 3 years ago, or where he'd never left it at all. Esh materialized beside him, its form more solid than Kade had ever seen it. "Did we?" Kade started to ask. "I don't know," Esh admitted. "I remember the prison, I remember escaping, but I also remember never being there. Both memories feel equally real." Kade looked at his hands. They were scarred in ways they hadn't been before, or had always been. The timeline felt bruised, like reality hadn't quite settled yet. "Maybe we're still in there," he said quietly. "Maybe this is just another probability stream." "Maybe." Esh turned its 3 eyes toward the horizon, where the galactic core painted the sky in shades of purple and gold. "Or maybe we chose the right reality this time." "How do we know?" "We don't. That's the point." They stood there for a moment, 2 beings who might have escaped the impossible, or might still be trapped in it. Then Kade laughed. It felt good, even if it might not be real. "You know what? I don't care. If this is freedom, I'll take it. If it's another prison, at least it's a prettier one." "Very philosophical," Esh said dryly. "I learned from the best." Kade started walking toward his ship. "Come on, we've got a galaxy to see, or re-see, or see for the first time, depending on which probability we're in." "Where are we going?" "Anywhere but here." They boarded the Nomad's Chance. The engines hummed to life, a sound that felt certain and real and solid. As the ship lifted into the purple sky, Kade glanced at the rear-view display. For just a moment, he thought he saw something standing on the landing pad, a figure that wore faces like masks. But when he blinked, it was gone. Maybe it had never been there at all. The ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving Archeon 5 behind. In the cockpit, Kade and Esh flew through a universe that might be real, carrying scars from a prison that might have existed. And somewhere, in some probability stream, in some version of reality, the probability prison still stood, still held its prisoners, still ran its experiments. But in this reality, in this moment, 2 beings had done the impossible. They had chosen their existence. And that, perhaps, was the only freedom that truly mattered. The stars stretched into lines of light ahead of them, and Kade Voss smiled at the infinite possibilities waiting in the dark.